What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. As always, I thank you so very much for being here with me. Thank you for sending this to a friend if it helps. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. That helps me. Thank you for going to Spotify, Tidal, Pandora, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever you like to get your music at, and checking out Zamboni Funk Music. I'm super proud of what I've made there, and I would love it if you would listen to some of it. You can go to zambonifunk.com to get readings. You can get a 10-minute reading, much like this video is. You can get a 60-minute reading where we talk back and forth and sort of like discuss the context of your life and how you can most effectively proceed. You can go to Patreon and get an electional report for timing advice, so you can get something about like when to launch your product or to go on a first date or whatever it is for you. Thank you for checking all of those things out and more. Zambonifunk.com is the place for that. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead, because it is a busy one this week. I would say that this is probably the most consequential week of 2024. You know, we don't have to rank them, but it looks like a lot. It looks like a lot is going down. I'm sure you have heard about this eclipse that we've got going on. We've got a new moon solar eclipse going on in Aries this week, tomorrow that's happening. That looks like it wants to be a very big deal. I have spoken at length about this eclipse. You can check that out on the Plant Cunning podcast. And also everybody and their mom is talking about this eclipse right now. Even people who aren't astrologers are talking a lot about this eclipse. I'm not on team like have a rooftop party and witness the event. Like that's not the way that I get down. This one looks rough and tumble at a minimum. This one looks like it wants to, because it's in, all right, so it's in the sign of Aries, right? Aries is a sign ruled by Mars. It's like kind of war making in general. Aries is also the name of the god of war in the Greek tradition. So it's like, it's very like wants to push on things and wants to move things around. And we can also notice that Mars is currently in Pisces and is closely conjunct Saturn and is going to conjoin Saturn this week. So we're looking at Mars-Saturn things. That's going to be like gas and brakes at the same time. We're looking at frustration and difficulty. It looks like, you know, like trying to break through a wall in some kind of way, and, you know, demolition or a wrecking ball or something like this. It might be the way that you do that, right? So we're looking at great force and dealing with there's movement force, and then there's also stopping force, and like the collision between those two things is what we're looking at this week. Also, be careful in the water this week, because that's happening. That Mars-Saturn conjunction is happening in Pisces, and so it looks like bad things or malefic things, uncomfortable discomfort and troublesome, challenging obstacles, you know, those kinds of things want to happen in the water in some kind of way this week. So and like kind of for a little while, but definitely this week this looks like that's going on. The other thing about this is we can take a look at Mars and Saturn in Pisces and notice that they are ruled by Jupiter. And so what's going on with Jupiter? Well, Jupiter, it's this actually I haven't heard too much about. Other people have been sort of like very excited about the eclipse and haven't necessarily spent as much time talking about how Jupiter is very, very close to Uranus at this point. We're within 3 degrees and applying to, so Jupiter is within 3 degrees of a conjunction to Uranus and still applying. So this looks like Jupiter is in charge of Mars and Saturn, right? So Mars and Saturn are squabbling in Jupiter's house, and Jupiter is like having to deal with that, and then bring in some Uranus, and it looks like instability. So whatever stability or like smoothing it out that Jupiter tends to prefer to do, Jupiter is going to like try and push you back towards homeostasis in some kind of way, moderation, this kind of thing. That's part of the reason why we don't typically like malefics as much, because they tend toward extremity, and extremity is where the problems happen. And moderation is where like shit's kind of like copacetic, right? So Jupiter tends to push things toward moderation and like, oh, it's going to be all right. But Jupiter's got a lot to deal with that Uranus. Uranus is over here flipping tables and earthquakes, right? We just saw an earthquake last week. Two earthquakes. Was it one earthquake? Who even knows? What are earthquakes made of? But the literal earth is shifting, and so there's like a lot going on as far as that's concerned. You know, lightning strikes, like all of this kind of thing. It looks like there's opportunity here for innovation. You might have a good idea, especially because of the pressure that Saturn and Mars, right? Like necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so if there is something difficult that you need some kind of new idea, or else then this is the kind of sky that might give you a new idea here in some kind of way. I would think that, you know, there might be like radical faith could be a thing that could be like a Jupiter-Uranus kind of situation. Jupiter tends to deal with faith and meaning and this kind of thing, and Uranus tends to be like unexpected or surprising or revolutionary in some kind of way. So like some kind of revolutionary faith might be a good look here, especially since we can notice that Jupiter in Taurus. So Taurus is adjacent to Aries, right? So the eclipse is going on there in Aries, and Jupiter can't see what's going on there in Aries. Oh, by the way, Jupiter is in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, and Venus has moved into Aries here as well. So so Jupiter can't see the ruler of Taurus. Also, the Taurus stuff, or the Aries stuff, is ruled by Mars, who's in Pisces, also adjacent, can't see it, no aspect going on there. So there's a lot of blindness going on. There's a lot of sort of like, the way that I usually describe this in a natal chart is like, if a planet can't see the house that it rules, then it's got to use the force in some kind of way, right? So there's something faithful about that, moving by faith and not by sight, that could be important here in some kind of way. Now, here's the other thing. I'm not even done yet. There's more that is going to complicate this, and is that we've got Mercury retrograde right now, right? Mercury retrograde is associated with miscommunications and delays and confusion and all of this kind of thing. But it's not just Mercury retrograde, it's also Mercury cazimi. So this is to say that Mercury is going to move into the heart of the sun. We're going to see a conjunction with the sun. Honestly, around the same time as the eclipse. It's like 2 days afterward or something like this. So okay, so generally when so generally when I think about Mercury cazimis, then it's like a moment, it's a special message from the king. It's a moment of like clarity, especially among all the confusion. The idea that I've been here with Aries and all this, the idea that I've been thinking about is like, think about a movie montage where there's like some kind of battle scene going on, or there's calamity happening, and then everything slows down and it gets quiet for a second, and maybe you like hear a heart thumping or something like this, and you sort of zoom in on a thing and notice that thing for a moment, and then calamity continues all around, right? That is this cazimi moment. It's that slow down and notice the thing. So we're going to notice some kind of thing, some kind of Aries thing, some kind of ruled by Mars. And so we're looking at Mars-Saturn things, right? So some kind of like clarity or truth-telling message comes through, and it's a Mars-Saturn thing. So so it looks like problems on problems, and eclipses to go with that, right? And Jupiter's not really in position to help. Like it looks like a lot of, I mean, Jupiter is kind of in position to help, right? Jupiter in Taurus does make a sextile to Pisces, which he rules. And so there is some vision there, a little bit of something. I don't know how helpful that's going to be. Jupiter is going to be like pretty busy this week with Uranus. You know, it might be the kind of situation where like everybody is playing on my phone or playing in my house in some kind of way. And so you know what Dad's doing? Dad is flipping a table over. Dad is not having all of this bullshit. That's like kind of the vibe that Jupiter might, best case scenario, Jupiter brings that kind of vibe. It looks like a really raucous and wild time. It looks like a lot of things are going to go on this week that may have global significance. This is a good time to remember to think and act locally. This is what I'm going to try to do this for myself. Like, there's a lot of stuff that might happen that is globally significant this week that could be terrifying or difficult to look at or something like this, and it's not necessarily all my responsibility to deal with. It's good for me to remember where my field is and my sphere of influence, and to act in that space. It may well be that I have a lot to do in that space, but I can't do any more than that. Thank you so much.